My name is Diane. I am the founder and developer of Graced. Graced is a healing modality that applies ancient healing methods to a modern software program. In this particular video, I want to talk to you about how you can use that program to increase your consciousness level. I'll go into the history of consciousness development and how it's been explained in various cultures. Most importantly, I'm going to apply it to Dr. Hawkins' method of understanding consciousness. And it is a fascinating process of understanding where you are on the levels of consciousness, and how to interpret your relationships with other people will allow you to understand dissonance in relationships. It will help you to be more patient and to realize that your journey is your own journey. And you can actually increase your level of consciousness by applying Graced. So let's get into it. I'll show you how it works. What I'd like to introduce you to now is the chart of consciousness, which represents a level on a scale of consciousness calibrated from 1 to 1,000, where 1 is actually a primal existence and 1,000 is the highest level of truth. That highest level would be found in people like Jesus or Buddha or Gandhi. We're born into a particular place on this chart based on our innate ability to perceive, our spiritual awareness, and our social responsibilities. For most people, placement on the chart varies little from birth. However, if you devote yourself to consciousness work, whether that be in the form of reading, meditation, acts of generosity, these sort of things can help you to travel from your given level, and in the same way, you can travel down the chart. This particular one is by Sir David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. Dr. Hawkins was an international renowned psychiatrist, a consciousness researcher, a spiritual lecturer, and a mystic. He was the author of more than 8 books, including a bestseller called Power versus Force. His work has been translated into more than 17 languages. On the chart, you'll note that there are columns that indicate different dimensions that relate to how you perceive your world. God view, a life view, the various levels, your level of consciousness ranging from 1 to 1,000, the emotional state, and the process. The levels 1 to 1,000 are indicated by 6 rows. This reflects the increased levels of consciousness. The chart starts with the level just above existence. Emotions of shame, guilt, and apathy are found below 100. Between 100 and 200 is grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, and courage. These reflect emotions that are about force. The most decisive level is 200. It's a critical cutoff point. The fulcrum that divides the human population into living into falsehoods and living in truth is at this mark. If you live in energy fields under 200 on the chart, it makes sense for you to express hatred, to cheat in relationships, to even go to the extreme of rationalizing killing one's perceived enemies. These emotions can be instilled by society or family structure. Some can simply exist on this level with no present environmental explanation. These levels below 200 exist with a more base emotional outlook. valuing forms of force over reason. It's less respectful to both individuals and society at large. Unfortunately, it's estimated that 85% of the world's population is below 200. Once a level of awareness crosses the 200 mark, the outlook of neutrality, a willingness to engage, and acceptance creates a secure, positive, energetic pull. People at this level know they can survive whatever life throws at them, and they're content with others without the need to control, to change, or even compete. What's interesting is that pets are on the scale of about 240 to 250. That means animals are safer to be around than most people. Next is 300 plus. Builders, the managers, those who provide a harmonizing logic and reason to our society. This level exists primarily in three-dimensional concerns, materialistic energy of the planet. Owning and having are the main pursuits. Success is judged in this realm by what you have and the quality of what you have. Once in the domain of reason, which is 400 plus, logic and order and an appreciation for detail prevails. The concepts of love and prayer and other spiritual realities have a harder time being accepted as they can't be fully logically rationalized with the three-dimensional construct. It therefore is more easily dismissed. There's roughly 10% of the world that's between level 250 to 500. Once in the domain of love, which is around 500 plus, the truth of love and the spiritual reality is subjectively convincing beyond a shadow of a doubt. Unconditional, unchanging, love-centered existence that is not altered by external experiences becomes a way of life. Because of the purity of motive, it can achieve great feats of change. This level is naturally present in about 4% of the population. 600 to 1,000 is consumed by less than 1% of the world population. It's a level rare to see. It's the level of enlightenment and peace that few experience. It's the level of Jesus and Buddha. The movement of only a few points then is filled with a multidimensional shift in your energy and your perceptions. Each has its paradigm of reality and value systems. Each defines what is acceptable through your own verified perceptions, actions, and reactions within your life. Therefore, when working to consciously raise your level, an increase in even a few points represents a major advance in your consciousness power. Here is another map that shows a proportional layout of the various levels. From this, you can extract how many people are in the below 200 level of consciousness and how few there are higher up. It really is quite amazing. Dr. Hawkins studied the work of Carl Jung, who was very well known for his work in the concept of the collective unconscious. He was a Swiss psychoanalyst who theorized that there is a vast, bottomless subconscious pool of all the shared experiences of the whole human race. We can access this vast hidden database on human awareness by tapping into all that has been experienced through the connection to the higher self, through applied kinesiology, otherwise called muscle testing. In Graced, we use muscle testing as well to test for the position on the chart. Now, we can also use this to test the quality and the spirituality of a book, of a movie, or even whole civilizations. The consciousness level of the Old Testament, for example, with an eye for an eye morality, is lower than the New Testament, where concepts like justice and a higher court prevail. In Matthew 6:33, it stated, But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his justice, as all these things shall be added unto you. So if your level of consciousness is over 200, for example, it would never occur to you to react in an eye for an eye mentality. Another interesting application of this calibration system is in the Declaration of Independence. It was a document calibrated at 700. Dr. Hawkins went through it line by line and found that the concept that all are equal by virtue of their divinity, of their creation, and that human rights are intrinsic creates an extremely high level of consciousness. That same precept was preached by Mahatma Gandhi, who was personally rated at 1,000 by Dr. Hawkins. So my goal in making this video is to introduce how grace can be applied to this chart to raise the individual's level of consciousness through a focused desire to understand better what life on this planet means. In so doing, we can raise the consciousness of the planet. We now have the power to increase the level of consciousness through deliberate action. If you can perceive that we are on this planet, given a body meat suit to experience and to learn that we are all one, that we are infinite. Through a grace treatment, we will identify where you are on the chart now and what needs to be removed or rearranged in order for you to incrementally increase your way up the chart. Grace defines the level at which you are now operating and then identifies the frequency or emotion that is needed to raise your level. Then the block that is keeping you from achieving that level is identified and disintegrated. This block might be a life experience, a cultural belief, a past life, a trapped emotion, a heart maze, the list goes on. From a historical viewpoint, expressing the process of ascension through higher levels of consciousness has been around for centuries. In ancient Zen tradition, a popular parable is the story of the 10 ox or even the 10 elephant version. The story is told in Chinese and Japanese and Korean folklore. It's based on the gradual step-by-step development of a Zen practitioner who goes in search and finds a wild animal, trains it, and the success is indicated by eventually disappearing. There are varied versions out there, and I have presented one here. You can slow down the playback here and read it if you like. Even on Google, there are many different versions you can read about. But basically, it's the process of ascension that's important to note. In a similar way, ascension training occurs also in the Bible. In Genesis, the scripture speaks of Jacob having a dream and beholding a ladder that was set on the earth with its top reaching into heaven. He beheld angels of God that were ascending and descending on this ladder. It's taken that this ladder represents the connection between God and man, and it demonstrates that the God who created the universe desired an intimate relationship with mankind, and most importantly, that He is the one who initiated that connection, that conversation, that relationship. A negative version of this attempt at ascension is in the story of the Tower of Babel, in which mankind tried to reach heaven. It supposedly angered God as there was no meeting of the mind, there was no joint two-way communication. So for us today, when we take these separate narrative stories and we extract them as a parable, it becomes a difficult process for us. It's just hard to comprehend how, say for example, any man could have built Noah's Ark and collected all the animals of the world and lived with them on the boat. Yet we can think of that story as being a contemporary genetic DNA bank as a way to repopulate the planet. Whether it's taming a bull, climbing a ladder, or building a tower, it has no more reference nor less reference than a chart and graph with words that are a coded symbol and numerical value. They're all the means to try to express the same story, and that is your consciousness is a process of awakening, and that the gaining of this knowledge allows our soul to ascend. Putting it in perspective, we're all on our own path to understanding. We are no better off or no worse than anyone who is above or below us in the columns on the Hawkins chart. We're just all trying to understand and choose a way to progress. So, as I leave you now, I just want to introduce you to the www.grace.co location, where you can read more and listen to more about grace and how to apply it to your life. You can also book a session so we can work on your connection to your level of consciousness and how to raise it. And please, will you just like and share this video so you can be in a line when new information comes out. And I'm going to now leave you with some words from Dr. Hawkins. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.